So on to some quite exciting information now in that in partnering with AgriProve and through our distribution networks, we've managed to successfully measure 8 landholders with a measured increase of soil carbon on farm to date. And these 8 landholders come from a variety of different production systems. We've got Western Australia, Victoria and South Australia registered at the moment. And everything from about 250 to 280 mil rainfall right the way up to about 600 millimeter rainfall. And so we're quite excited about these because they're going to be the first in Australia for carbon credits, which are in a cropping context, but not only in a cropping context, but also in that medium to low rainfall bracket, which previously it wasn't anticipated that you could do. Fortunately, we've had 25 years of experience with it, and now we're coming through for the first credits under the method. And so you can see there, some of those results are quite significant numbers of carbon building. And I will add as a note that these are all within 12 to 18 months of their initial baseline date. So not only have we been able to successfully build up soil carbon in these environments, but we've also done it very quickly within those systems just by the introduction of some of that biology and our soil carbon building land management strategy. And I'll preface this again by saying that these at the moment are successfully measured increases, but they're just in their raw form at the moment. These are going through to their carbon credit issuance shortly, hopefully the first of which is coming in November. And it's at that point where we'll know the final numbers as it comes out through the emissions calculations and other small details like that. So I'll just take it into a few specific examples that we can digest here. So I'll bring us to Luke Felmingham and his father Ken, who are working out of Shepparton in Victoria. And Luke originally signed up a carbon project with us, and he somehow convinced his father Ken to do it as well. And he said, right, Dad, we're going to do this carbon project initiative, and I'm going to do, this is what Luke was saying, he said, I'm going to do the full program. I'm going to do as much as I can in my first year to build soil carbon. And to his father Ken, he said, you're just going to do one aspect. If you remember the 6-step system, Ken just decided to do one aspect of that. And so we've got 2 situations here where they're relatively close farming blocks, about 10 kilometers apart as the crow flies. Same rainfall, same environment, same soil type, and very similar cropping conditions. And Luke's farm, he's actually managed through the implementation of, which you can see there, the carbon building activities of about $80 a hectare additional spend on top of his existing program. He's built just over 2,000 tons of carbon in that 12 months. And we were initially, when we saw the lead indicator assessment, which involves the satellite technology, it showed us that we had a potential measured increase. So we went back and did the sampling with the AgriProve soil sampling crew. And it came out at the 2,000 mark for increase in soil carbon. And we thought it was so good that we almost didn't believe it. And so we, with AgriProve, made the decision at that point. We said, let's send the soil rigs in again with completely new soil sample points so that we can actually verify that this is truthful and that it wasn't somehow a mistake. And when we sent the rigs back in again to new sample points, we found that it came out almost identical at 2,000 tons of carbon built on top of the baseline. So we were pretty excited about that, and all to say within a short time frame. So digging into a little bit of what Luke has actually done to get that increase. Luke was a very conventional cropper beforehand, and this is really his first year with the program and incorporating biology. So one of the first things he did was, instead of burning his stubble, he decided to retain that, and he put that on the surface or laid that on the surface. And then he used our digest application, which is a cellulose digesting fungi, to break down that cellulose and return it to the soil profile, which is basically straight carbon. He's also done a seed treatment program, which has got that mycorrhizal fungi involved in it, which is, again, critical for carbon building, along with other humic acids that was incorporated at the point of sowing. He involved the F75 chemical additive, which is actually a fulvic acid that LawrieCo makes. It's the highest highest grade fulvic acid on the market. And so he's incorporated that within his spray programs. And then existingly, he was using UAN as a foliar, and we've simply put Boost with that, which is one of our products, which is a compound biostimulant, which includes fish, kelp, amino acids, triacontanol. And it's essentially all-in-one biostimulant, so it takes a lot of the ease of, or the troubles of mixing out on farm, so it's just rocks up ready to go. And so that's a bit of the program, and Luke has spent an additional $80 a hectare on that program, But what he found, not only did it increase in carbon, but it was the highest yield that he'd ever seen, especially in this canola crop, and it was the highest oil content that he'd seen than ever before at 43.5%. So he was very excited, not only that he covered his costs of the activities with the yield and the quality increase, but then there was also the carbon to be claimed on top of that. And we're hopeful that that carbon is the first one that'll come through in November. Next slide. Thanks there, Toby. Jumping over to Ken's property, which I mentioned before. Again, you can see that Ken just spent the $12 a hectare using the Boost application. So just to give us a bit of a baseline of what just a single product could do in the mix. And the results speak for themselves. You've got Luke there who built just over 12 tons a hectare of carbon, and Ken's done just over 1. And so we're getting very clear management information on what actually leads to the carbon credit increases or the carbon building in the soil profile. Again, same crop types, same production systems, very similar soil types, and same rainfall for that season. So very exciting data there. Next slide. Thanks, Toby. Onto another example, which is out in Caniva, just over the border from SA into Victoria. This farmer, he was again a completely conventional farmer, and he's got 4 carbon projects on his property, which we went through and stratified out. And so what we decided to do is that on carbon projects 1, 3, and 4, we were going to introduce a new application of LawrieCo ZMC and F75, which I mentioned before is the chemical additive, the fulvic acid. And so once again, we've shown that by introducing these stimulants into the system, we are able to build carbon on top of what was the original management practice. And so a little bit of the difference of the LawrieCo ZMC, for example, compared to one that is conventionally on the market, is not only does it include your zinc, mang, and copper, but it also includes some of that fulvic acid, which we've talked about, which is involved in plant biostimulant and biology protection and buffering. But it also includes microbial metabolites. So we actually brew up microbe bodies here in the production system here at LawrieCo, and then we add that to our zinc, mang, copper, and then you get all of these microbial metabolites and microbial necromass remaining in that product, so that when it's going onto the paddock, you're getting that biostimulant effect as well. And so just through that introduction, we've managed to build 3,871 tons of carbon in about 18 months, which is close to 9,500 equivalent carbon dioxide tons. So when I mentioned this to this particular farmer, I think he nearly fell off his chair. He was very excited about this fact. So again, just going through the calculations now in terms of that emissions abatement and the on-farm inputs, and hopefully we get those credits coming through shortly.